So my name's Ryan Black, I'm 27 years old and I come from a little known town called Port Glasgow on the west coast of Scotland, and I am a seminarian for the Diocese of Paisley. So seminary is not the place where I expected to end up. I was in university for a few years after high school. I had all my life mapped out in front of me. I planned to move to Hong Kong after gaining a degree in naval architecture, and I just assumed really that I would end up married with kids and bringing up a family. Seminary was not an idea. The church was always important to me. My brother and I never had any choice in the matter growing up. We were brought to Mass every week, kicking and screaming sometimes, but we were always there. And slowly the church became an important part of my life. I was an altar server, like many seminarians before me and hopefully after me as well. And yeah, the church was a very important part of my life. I did think for a long time that I might be a deacon, but as I said, the idea about being married was at the front of my mind as a student, and so the idea of being a priest never even crossed my mind, to be honest. That changed though when I went to South Africa. My parish priest at the time, Father Joe Balmer, asked me and a few other young men to join him on a trip to the Diocese of Kroonstad, and we were asked to set up a twinning project between parishes and schools in Port Glasgow and also in the Diocese of Kroonstad, just outside Johannesburg. And that was a really incredible experience. We were there for a month, and it was my first real experience of a priest outside of, "Hello, Father, thanks for the homily, Father, that was a lovely sermon, and when are you coming into school?" I really got to see Father Joe and the other priests that we were living with in a completely new light. We lived in the parish house, and so we saw them in their day-to-day life, and they did some incredible work in these townships and towns in the Diocese of Kroonstad. And so I was left very impressed with that and by that, but I came back and I resumed university. I slowly but surely came to resent going to university every day. I stayed at home and I travelled up to Glasgow every day, and I became more and more aware of the fact that I probably wasn't going to use naval architecture as a degree in the future. I started to resent going to class. I should say here that I never ever believed in the idea of the call. They all speak about the call. I was an altar server for years and I knew many good priests, but I always thought that they just chose to be priests in the same way that my mum chose to be a nurse or my dad chose to be an electrician. I never thought for a minute that God actually could let you know what he was thinking about what you should do with your life. That started to change though after South Africa. As I said, I wasn't enjoying university, and the only way I can describe it, and I've said this before when speaking to pupils in the various primary schools and high schools I've visited since entering seminary, the only way I can describe it is that this nagging feeling in the back of my head got so strong, so regular, so frequent, that it would have felt as if I was actively ignoring something had I not done something about it. Why not priest? Why not think about being a priest? I tried to ignore it as much as I could, but it was not to be. So I spoke to Father Joe and he pointed me in the direction of the vocations director at the time, and he explained the seminary applicants year for me. It was a long process, lots of forms and lots of self-reflection required, but I got through it. If I'm being honest now, I can say this a few days before the ordination now, I applied for the seminary applicants year with no real intention of going to seminary. It was something to almost kill some time while I worked out what I wanted to do with my life. I thought, at least I can say I've tried this. I'll apply with no real intention of going on. The applicants year came and went. I had a great time. I met some great guys who are still friends now, and it was just an incredible experience. And before I knew it, the administrator of the diocese at the time had called me into the office and had said they were accepting me and would I like to go to seminary, and I really haven't looked back since. It's been a wonderful 6 years. I can't actually believe I'm saying it has been 6 years. I came here in September 2013, and people tell you at the beginning of your seminary formation that it will go by quickly. guys at the top of the house will say that often, and you don't believe them. I mean, 7 years is a long time. It's longer than I was in high school. It's as long as I was in primary school. And I think for my family and friends as well, 7 years at the beginning seems a very long time to be away from home, especially because a lot of people, I think, when they think of training for priesthood, they think of young men travelling to Rome for a year or two, disappearing, not known about for a few years, and come back as priests. So the experience of going to university was unexpected, but I've loved it. I've been very lucky that I've enjoyed my philosophy and my theology, and I'm now studying for a licence in biblical theology. But the biggest and best part of my 6 years has been in this building, in the Scots College. I've met some wonderful guys in the 6 years that I've been here. Some are already back in Scotland as priests, and that's a wonderful thing. And some guys are just starting off in their first and second year, and they have all of it ahead of them. And you know, it's strange, you kind of find yourself somewhere in the middle, I suppose towards the top end of the house now. And it's just been great. A fantastic thing about being in seminary is you have this wonderful experience to get to know the Lord. You spend so much time in prayer formally with the rest of the community in the chapel, praying the Liturgy of the Hours, but also, of course, you're encouraged to get to know the Lord more intimately on your own in individual private prayer. It's been a great experience. Obviously, you can't do without it. Getting to know the Lord and really getting to work out His will for you is the biggest and most important part of seminary life. It's been fantastic. Excited, nervous, afraid, tense, stressed, all of these things. It's I can't believe it's happening this week. So we've just come back from the Easter holidays. We've got a few days to get everything organised, and then there we are. It's happening on Sunday. It's an incredible feeling to know that 6 years of formation is coming to some sort of milestone now. You have these little milestones along the way in seminary, so you become a lector and then an acolyte. You become a candidate when you start wearing the clerical collar when you're in Rome. And they're all important steps on the way. Obviously, this is the biggest step that will happen in Rome itself. Please God, next year I will be ordained a priest for the Diocese of Paisley back in Scotland. And that will be, the climax of 7 years of formation. But the ordination to the Diaconate it's a big moment. I'm so grateful that so many people from Scotland and beyond are able to come along and help me celebrate on Sunday. Lots of priests from the diocese and from other dioceses in Scotland. Lots of my family and friends. Bishop Keenan is coming out to ordain me, which is fantastic. And lots of classmates as well from Rome, because that's a huge part of your life in Rome, is spending time in university and getting to know people from other colleges and from other parts of the world. So I'm really looking forward to celebrating with everyone, and just a little bit nervous as well. So many people have been involved in my road to ordination. Obviously, first and foremost, my mum and my dad and my brother Chris back home in Port Glasgow. They have been a huge support to me in these past 6 years, but also throughout all of my life, particularly when I had to make the difficult decision to leave university early to come to Rome. That wasn't an easy time, but they were there for me and wanted to make sure that I was happy. So I have to thank them first and foremost. But also so many of my family and friends back home. As I've said, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins have all been a great support to me. And so many friends who have had to deal with something which is a bit unusual now. One of their friends coming to seminary to train to be a priest. It's not something that happens every day, but they've been a great support to me, and they've remained in touch and are praying for me often, which makes a big difference. Also the priests back home in the Diocese of Paisley and around the rest of the country, and also actually priests in the United States, where I was lucky to spend a month on pastoral placement 2 years ago. These priests in many different ways have inspired me to try and imitate them as much as I can in my own priesthood, please God, next year, but also in my service as a deacon, which starts on Sunday, which is an incredible thing to think. But so many people have been very helpful. special word of thanks must go to the community of the Scots College, the rector, the vice-rector, the spiritual director, and all the former members of staff who have been here in my time, along with the sisters and the support staff, and of course, perhaps most importantly, the other seminarians in the college. Their friendship and their readiness to follow the Lord have been great inspirations for me, and I have tried to imitate them as well as much as I can in trying to know the Lord better and discern His will and do what I can in response to that. So of course everyone has a vocation, some to priesthood, some to diaconate, some to the religious life, some to married life, and some to the single life. Everyone has a vocation because God has a plan for every one of us. And so many people at many different stages in their life will be thinking about their vocation. If you're thinking about a vocation to the priesthood, the diaconate, or the religious life, then a very important thing to do is to speak to someone. Often that someone is the vocations director, and they can point you in the right direction. Every diocese has one, and if you speak to your own parish priest or a priest who you know, they should point you in his direction. The most important thing is to pray. There's no substitute for it. We are the first generation of Facebook seminarians. Everyone has a better idea of what happens here in Rome now because of Facebook and Twitter and even the college website. All these different stories and photos going out all the time, and so people have a better idea of what's going on. And it's great. It's a great bit of publicity for the college, but there's nothing to substitute time with the Lord in prayer, getting to Mass as often as you can, and celebrating the sacrament of confession as often as you can as well. Bishop Keenan said a few years ago in one of his pastoral letters to the diocese that there's no substitution for a parish having time of adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, and he said it was a fruit of adoration of the Blessed Sacrament was when one of their sons or daughters started to discern a vocation. So yeah, that would be the biggest bit of advice, is just to pray and to speak to people that you trust about these things. It's always easier when you speak to people and give it a go. As I said, it's been a wonderful 6 years for me. It's not what I expected, and I never even planned to be here, but I haven't looked back, and I really can't wait for my ordination now.